Joined by political analyst Vusi Gumbi, just to get his sense of what we've just heard. Vusi, good afternoon. Welcome to Today, and thank you very much for your time this hour here on eNCA. I don't know if you were able to hear any of what Mpho Phalatse had to say, but she's not giving up the fight. She described last week's sittings in council as a sham.
Yeah, well, I did manage to get some glimpses, but my sentiments are that coalitions are bound to fail in South Africa if they are centered on a mutual hatred for the African National Congress. And she just said it now towards the tail end of her press briefing, say that the aim is to keep the ANC out of power. So they are bound to fail. So I believe that for a coalition to work, at its core, there must be shared values, shared identity, shared ideologies, and not just the ambition or the desire to keep one party out of power. So it was bound to fail, and I believe that we will see a ripple effect in metros like Ekurhuleni, in metros like Tshwane, largely because of the fact that in Gauteng there's been a change of leadership, and that finds expression in a change in the balance of forces, where the people in the PEC in Gauteng largely are people who would say identify with a political party like the EFF. They are quite radical, if you will, or so I don't want to say there are RET forces within the ANC, because RET are not forces within the ANC. It is a conference resolution of the African National Congress. So I'm not surprised again that Dr. Mpho Phalatse is trying to fight, but I don't think that she will succeed.
Yeah, from what you've said, the basis of this multi-party coalition government was not based on ideology. It was based on keeping the ANC out of power. Do you think that was his biggest weakness?
Certainly, that was their biggest weakness, because if it was a fully fledged coalition, it would have been expressed also in the delegation of duties. You cannot say you've got a coalition and then the mayor is from the DA, the chief whip of council is from the DA, the speaker of council is from the DA. And I did, see in the last few days that there are some that are saying that she was collateral. The fact that she wanted to, delegate power and divide power amongst other political parties, obviously, but the powers that be within the Democratic Alliance refused. So I don't think it will succeed in any way, shape, or form.
She says it's not about power, it's about serving the people. And she said she's been told, why bother now? Why are you fighting this? Just let it go. She says, no, she can't have that happen, because she believes that there's a role to play here in terms of serving the people. I mean, she's a politician. I don't know what we make of that.
I mean, certainly, I certainly feel that, she's collateral. I feel that if the national leadership of the DA had allowed her to direct, coalition talks after, Vasco da Gama was, booted out, I believe that things would have turned out differently. So I do believe also it's about trying to make sure that they have that traction. Remember, it's not only about Johannesburg as a metro, it's also about making sure that to the residents of Johannesburg and by extension Gauteng, they've got a track record to show come 2024. We already know that Gauteng is going to be hotly contested. So also for them, it's about trying to make sure that we have something to show as far as fighting for this province is concerned. And, so I don't think it's merely about, putting the people first. It is politics. There's a lot more to gain. Remember, Johannesburg is the economic hub. What happens here sets some sort of domino effect in these other municipalities, in these other metros. So I do believe that things would have turned out differently if the national leadership of the DA had allowed her and handed the reins to direct coalition talks after the removal of Vasco da Gama.
Now, Dada Murero of the ANC is now the new mayor. I mean, the ANC does not have overwhelming majority in terms of the seats there. They have to work with a couple of other parties. Are there lessons for Dada Murero in this, in this DA scenario currently?
Certainly. What I think Dada Murero specifically and the broader collective leadership of the ANC in Johannesburg can learn is that we are now in the phase of coalition politics. So small parties play an ever important role for these bigger political parties. They are essentially the kingmakers, if you will. They will determine which party governs, And I think that's the DA does not have an appreciation of small parties. If you would recall, 2016, 2019 elections, you had, Johnston Hayes and even Helen Zille saying that voting for a small party is a waste of time. And they needed small parties to form that coalition in Nelson Mandela in 2016 and in other metros that they've governed through a coalition. So I think the difference between the ANC broadly and in Johannesburg specifically and the DA is that they understand that it cannot be business as usual, that they need small parties to govern, I'm not sure I stand to be corrected, but I had rumors that, obviously the ANC has decided to say it's going to give, how many seats to which political parties, So there's an appreciation of the fact that as much as we have individually, looking at these political parties who are the biggest, but we cannot govern alone. And there must be an appreciation of the fact that we have a wind of change that has descended in South African politics, and small parties play an effective role, and they effectively decide who governs and who doesn't.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Let's shift our attention while I have you before you go, Vusi, to 2024. We've got the national and provincial elections. You said earlier just now that governing by coalition is a reality now for South Africa. We must accept that. Political parties must know and appreciate how they make that work. Currently, they are battling. We'll have to see what happens in Ekurhuleni. Joburg, we've seen what happens. There's pressure as well in Tshwane currently. But let's look at 2024. The ANC now is going to have a new premier from tomorrow, Panyaza Lesufi, after the exit by resignation of David Makhura. Tomorrow is his last day in office. With 2 years to go before the national and provincial elections in 2024, will Panyaza have enough time to be able to galvanize support for the ANC, especially because you said a short while ago, Gauteng is going to be a hotly contested election come 2024?
I think it's important to remember why he was elected in the first place. He was elected because he's generally popular, even outside ANC structures, as an active, hands-on MEC for education. That's why Panyaza was elected. He was accorded a savior status or a messiah status by ANC branches in the province, who felt that we are facing uncertainty in 2024, and our best bet to try to get that 50+1 would be Panyaza. So generally, I do feel that he's got that track record, and him stepping in is saying, let you not only be the face of the province, but let you be the face of the government in the province, so that people know what to expect from you should you the ANC in Gauteng get that 50+1.